and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo story. In Manipur, FIRs have been filed against the president and three members of the Editors Guild of India, which accuses them of exacerbating the ongoing conflict in the region. The move follows the publication of a critical report by the Editors Guild of India on the situation in Manipur, which alleges bias on the part of state's leadership during the conflict. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by a journalist from Manipur. We're joined by Dhiren A. Sadokpam, is the editor-in-chief of the Frontier Manipur. Uh, he joins us from Imphal. Welcome to the show, sir. How do you assess this? This report that's been done by the Editors Guild of India and the reaction of the government. The chief minister has also spoken about it, and it's said that this report is one sided. It just does not take the entire holistic picture into consideration. What are your first thoughts about this report and the reaction, the strong reaction of the state government? Yes, can you hear me, sir?
Zaffar, I think, can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, yes.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you properly, but I think the Chief Minister of Manipur and Biren Singh had in fact reacted to the fact-finding report which was published by the Editors Guild of India, and has found lots of objections. But then there are other people, particularly one social worker. He was the first one to file the FIR, and the police had accepted the FIR. And as per the FIR, the report has been termed as fabricated, fake, and other things. But then what is even what do you call worrisome at this point in time is the fact that the Editors Guild of Manipur, as well as the All Manipur Working Journalist Union, also have taken a strong exception to the fact that the report by Editors Guild of India has not covered the entire issue of violence uh, in in a holistic manner. And in fact, the the AMJU is All Manipur Working Journalists Union and Editors Guild of Manipur, that is EGM, and both this journalist body have
Yeah.
argued that the report has many contentious and also contentious issues which are not uh, I mean which are not not to be discussed, or not saying they're not to be discussed, but contentious in a sense, the factual details of it, and also wrong representations which in fact have damaged the reputation of particularly the journalist community in the state, especially the Imphal based media, because they have argued that how could Editors Guild of India say that the views that has been expressed in the Imphal-based media are Meitei-centric, and hence it call them Meitei media, and but those are kind of a thing. And also they said that the claim of the EGA report, they said, how can you say it's a fact-finding team when the team had been there for 4 days or for 3 to 4 days, and and in fact they have not gone into the the deeper level of understanding what how the issue should be looked at, even from the media perspective. But then but they have listed out few things, I think almost up to, around 10 points, or maybe more than 10 points, which why the Editors Guild of Manipur, as well as the All Manipur Working Journalists Union, have uh, are arguing that this is completely wrong, what do you call, or rather uh, not wrong, yeah, rather a wrong representation of the facts that is on the ground, and that is what we know. But then, even for people like us, if you actually go through the
Yes,
reports of
yes.
both, what the
The
rebuttal that
point,
is given by
the
the
point here is, as you put it rightly, that Meitei media, the journalist based in Imphal. Of course, it's not easy to cover a conflict. We know from our experience in Kashmir, it's not easy to cover conflict, and it's very easy to label journalists. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the one which you also raised, that in a matter of 4 days or 5 days, how can you reach to a conclusion about a developing situation in Manipur? But before we go ahead, we want to play the soundbite of the Chief Minister of Manipur really hitting out at the Editors Guild of India.
These are this. That is highly condemnable. That's why the state government has filed an FIR against the members of the editor guilds who are trying to create more, classes in the state economy.
Yes. So you heard that the Chief Minister, now the Editors Guild of India, has also come up with a statement. They said that they're actually disturbed by those reactions. They have, in fact, corrected one of the one of the photos that they had used. That was the Forest Department office, which they had wrongly interpreted. They said that there was a problem in the caption, and they have removed it. But the larger point, the role of an Editors Guild of India in a developing situation where there is a conflict happening on the ground, what can be the possible role of a fact-finding mission? What exactly are they looking at? What are the types of facts that they are trying to gather? And the people that they identify and they interview, do they represent all the people, all the parties that are present in Manipur?
See, the what you call the report, particularly the Editors Guild of India report, claims that they have spoken to cross sections of the society, particularly the civil society organizations and the media persons and all the rest. But what I could gather from the thing is, see, there are also some areas where I think the Editors Guild of Manipur, as well as the Working Journalists Union in Manipur, what they have argued, I think at the level of factual representation, I think there are some gaps, gaps of actually comprehending what facts are being laid in front of you, So those kind of elements are, I think, missing from the report. And also, first thing that you notice in the Editors Guild of India report, as a journalist, who doesn't take sides, is the glaring errors, that is being created, that is being, what do you call, that is being presented in the report by EGM, that is the Guild of India, and the Editors Guild of Manipur's rebuttal, and not only the Editors Guild of Manipur, Editors Guild Manipur, but also the Working Journalists Union in Manipur. As I said, they have pointed out around quite lots of areas where they said, how could Editors Guild of in the Editors Guild of India, how could they go wrong on certain facts? Number one, it's not only about the representation of the picture, which is wrongly. And later on, the Editors Guild of India had expressed that they did wrongly caption the photo. But it's not only the photo, but then the first point of argument that the Editors Guild of Manipur, as well as the All Manipur Working Journalists Union, argue come up, as I said before, how could they come up in 4 days' time with some kind of a a reportage, a kind of a judgmental conclusion to the reportage that particularly the media in the Manipur Valley had reported. If they had to do that, for me also, I feel that if they had to do that, they need not even come to Manipur. They could have done a kind of a content analysis of what the Valley-based media were doing it by deploying people who actually could provide you what were the actual contents, So for me, I think if the Editors Guild of India had done that kind of exercise with some kind of a basic minimal methodology, though they have at the outset, particularly the Editors Guild of India had mentioned that they were not using, their frame of reference or their terms of reference were not about going into the genesis of it, the genesis of the crisis, or going into some other detailing, but they did give, quite a long introduction to before making those kind of observations, quite a long introductions, or rather the backgrounder to the issue that Manipur is facing now. And the backgrounder, according to the All Manipur Working Journalists, or the media fraternity in Manipur, that cuts across party lines, particularly in media fraternity in Manipur, news media fraternity in Manipur. What they are arguing is that even the Supreme Court has not been able to, the Supreme Court appointed fact-finding committee, they are looking into the matter and they have not been able to come to some kind of understanding of how it all began, and the fact-finding Supreme Court appointed fact-finding team already began to work from August 7th. From the 7th of August, they have already started working on it. And also, the first glaring mistake, I think this is one area which is not only the journalist fraternity, but from the academia as well as the civil society organizations who are also the informed citizens are utterly not happy with the Editors Guild of India report. Is the EGI, the Editors Guild of India, had referred to some kind of a what you call act called Hill Area Committee Act 1972. Okay, but as a fact, there is no such act in existence in Manipur.
There are many errors. The point that is also that's also
errors
coming.
and mistakes after mistakes.
Absolutely, you listed out some, but the point that comes to me is that how did this element of crowdfunding get into it? How does crowdfunding become a factor for a fact-finding committee? Because when there is crowdfunding, there is a possibility that one side could put in their weight, and that is a possibility. Does crowdfunding also come into these fact-finding missions?
No, crowdfunding, I mean, in fact, if you see the tweets of the Editors Guild of what do you call India, in fact, they claim this is a crowdfunded kind of a fact-finding. But, crowdfunding fact-finding, whether it's ethically accepted or not accepted, is a different story. I mean, you have a bigger debates about, that what you call electoral bonds and all that kind of thing. So in the journalistic parlance, I mean, is crowdfunding really, does it really help in trying to have a proper kind of fact-finding team, whether the crowdfunding can actually back them up? I mean, and if they can actually back up a kind of a report of such kind, I think what I'm really worried is, Zaffar, what I'm really worried is this: here are three senior editors, okay, three senior personality that we have known, and in fact we have grown reading their writings, or we have seen them, and in fact one of them, had spoken to me even before they arrived and that time actually I wasn't in Manipur, I was out of station, so I couldn't meet them, and in fact I think they met my executive editor and all that, but they could also and have spoken to so many people. I mean, even if I was available always on the phone, what were the kind of thing? See, for instance, the kind of a platform that we stand on, we are fiercely independent, what you call digital outfit in Manipur, which, I mean, we are known for being, I mean, many of the in the establishment call us anti-establishment, because we every time we go against the popular belief that the state wants us to see. Okay, so we do lots of kind of deep investigative stories and all that. So what I'm saying is, if the Editors Guild of India had reduced the quantum of errors, okay, they would have helped also. But it was so glaring that that people could make easy judgments out of what they are actually doing it. As that's why I think it was easy on the part of the news media fraternity, as well as the academia and as well as the informed citizens in Manipur, to actually cut through the report, page by page. So there are even journalists in Manipur who says in every page of this so-called Editor Guilds of India's report, there are glaring mistakes, and these mistakes about what you call that what they were referring to as called Hill Area. What you call the Hill Area Committee Act 1972 is one huge example, which is non-existent. So, there are people, observers who have, in fact, political observers who have in fact said that this Editors Guild of India, people were fed with kind of a wrong information. If they've been fed with wrong information, the onus is on them to actually check if such kind of act really do exist or not. And also when it comes to the history of election, and all, they shouldn't have ventured into giving a kind of a prelude or giving a kind of a what I call an introduction to the report. They could have straight away had written the views of whoever they spoke to. Okay, that way it would have also attributed what they were speaking of, how they were. They could have attributed from where they got those facts and details, which they claim is the facts and details. So my
Right.
what you call point of disagreement, particularly with the EGI's report, is that number of glaring mistakes which even make you, I mean,
Right.
which discredits all your, kind of thing. You see, it's a senior journalist like
But
Bharat Bhushan and all.
but you would
I mean,
agree.
how could
But
he
you
commit such
but
a
you would
mistake?
agree. But you would agree to one point that the state is deeply divided. It is divided. There on, there are two different segments, and the division is there on different levels, and even at the level of journalists also there is possibility that that division would have uh, taken its roots. So that is also the situation is on the ground is very delicate. Perhaps very difficult to get the correct picture if you're coming from outside and trying to speak to people. So you would perhaps agree the division on the ground is very clear. That's why there are those buffer zones that have been created.
No, you are absolutely right, Zaffar. I mean, in fact, I could call it de facto. De facto people have been separated. There have been quite of a. I mean, the divide is already done. What you call the damage is already done. But when we actually club the entire media fraternity, particularly in the Imphal Valley, as Meitei media, it becomes problematic, even for me, for instance. I'm a Meitei, to be very honest. So it becomes problematic in the sense, I'm not trying to defend one community or pit one community against another community, but it becomes problematic for the simple reason that if you do that kind of a logic, under that logic, what is the difference between Barkhadat and Arnab Goswami? All of them belong to the Hindu community. So it's like easy pigeonholing. I call it the easy pigeonholing should not happen. You see, so it's like you want to come to Imphal Valley and suddenly you create on ethnic lines the kind of thing that Meitei narrative or this narrative. See, we don't follow the idea of narratives at all. It's like if some
I
kind of
know.
a apex body or some kind of a body which represents
Absolutely.
things.
I can very
So
clearly
if you
understand what
start
you're saying because
dividing, I mean, see,
I
there are
myself
elements even
reported from a
so-called.
conflict
Yeah,
area for
I
years,
know,
so
Zafar.
I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Zafar,
It is very easy to
we
label
read your,
journalists,
you were
but
at.
it's so difficult
Hmm.
to cover all the sides of the story and be objective. Every side would want their point of view to be highlighted more, but you are a journalist, you know what you have to do. It's not so easy to do it in a conflict region, and maybe very
Exactly.
easy for an
Be
outsider
very,
to
very
label you as a
fiercely.
yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is they have to be very, uh, clear on representation of certain facts, and that facts has to be proven. There are three elements I always speak to my students as well as my colleague and my colleagues in the last 25 years. I have had 25 most of my years were in fact spent in Delhi, and that's how I know your work, although we haven't met.
Yeah.
For you in Tehel when you were in Tehelka, I've read many of your works, so I know your work. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, there are certain things that we cannot compromise as a journalist. Even if you are doing a content analysis, okay, let's take it to another level. Okay, not just a fact finding, but let us assume for a while. For me, I think the mandate of the Editors Guild of India should have been, they should have done a kind of a content analysis of media. So select three papers from Imphal based, so-called the
Yeah.
Meitei
Yeah.
based media, and maybe
Yeah.
three local dialect papers, and also employ.
Yeah.
And when I say employ means not necessarily a big budget kind of a thing, but deploy somebody who
Hmm.
understands the local dialects, and both the dialects, and do a kind of a dispassionate content analysis of that. Which also calls for. I'm not saying one has to follow for such kind of a fact finding. One has to follow a kind of a academic, what you call methodological approach. Okay, an approach what you call methodology in thing. So I'm not asking for a
Yes.
rigorous
Yeah. Yeah.
methodology to such kind of a fact finding,
Exactly.
but
There
basic
can be a
minimal, like for instance.
research
No, that's
methodology
what.
that
See,
can be applied to it.
one thing,
The
yeah,
content
research. Okay,
analysis,
one thing which
qualitative and
really disturbs.
quantitative content analysis.
Yeah. No, Zafar, let me add one more thing. One thing that really worries me is the fact that sweeping generalizations have been made without and also the basis of journalism. Most of these observations that they had made, they have not attributed. The attributions is missing. If they had to make such kind of a factual report, it is attributed. They said they made a cross sections of people. If I have spoken to Zaffar Iqbal of the Mojo, I mean, I would say that you are the one who said this. Okay, and attribute later on
Yeah.
whether you said or not is a different story altogether. So at least attribute
Yeah.
certain informations that you have gathered from the ground and said it. But when I say this, I am not encroaching upon the freedom of the what you call the Editors Guild of India to go and conduct a research, conduct a fact-finding mission. Even NGOs, do that. And I was comparing the other day when I was speaking to some other channels about how if you make a compare between that four women, that is of India. When I say India is Saida Hamid, who was a former Planning Commission member. Saida Hamid, then Roshni Goswami, Angela Rangat, and Jarjum from Arunachal. Okay, through two Northeastern, almost three Northeastern women, and one from the national capital. They had brought out a report. I'm not saying that they were not doing the kind of a content analysis, or they were not doing what you call the how the media has behaved. They were not commenting on that. But the kind of report that they have done, there were no arguments against them, or people do not find they could not pinpoint any form of what you call anxiety, and it didn't create any anxiety both for the groups, both for the cookies as well as for the Maitis. And
so what
like
what
people like
what
us, we
what
have
we're
read
saying,
them.
this report has not helped the situation at all. That's the point that I'm
Exactly,
coming
it
to.
has added fuel to the fire.
Yes,
Yeah.
the freedom of the press. How can the government and other agencies, in fact, help to safeguard freedom of press, particularly in conflict area? There are pressures of different kinds. It is not only that you have to report the story objectively; you also have to save your life in a conflict zone. If you go into a conflict area, you have to ensure that you go in and you get out. If you don't get out, your story has no value.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Say for instance, if you are reporting, Zaffar, we very well know, for instance, when the Babri Masjid fell, I was in Delhi. Okay, I was in Delhi, and we know exactly what happened. But then, I mean, it's easy to club like the Hindu media and Muslim media. Just imagine a situation in whole of India. You started clubbing the media into Hindu media and Muslim media. I mean, you can go completely wrong on the that basic premise. Okay, so that is exactly what
Yeah.
I do not want the a body of repute like the Editors Guild of India to indulge in. Okay, that is why I found it utterly objectionable, is that to that level only, but not at the mandate they have. When I say mandate, means that freedom to actually go and conduct a kind of a fact-finding report. Even everybody is welcome to do that. And in fact, most of the national media have come there and have taken their the way they have seen things. Even East Mojo have
And you'd appreciate Mojo. You would
Mojo
appreciate
story
that
have done.
Mojo story. We spent days together in Manipur trying to cover the situation on the ground in the most objective manner to reflect all the
Exactly,
all the
but
angles of the story.
let us not pit yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's not pit Barkhadat and make it Barkhadat equivalent to Arnab Goswami. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to say, because just because they're Hindus, so you are falling to that trap. Let's not fall trap to that kind of a thing. And I, for some reason, I'm not saying that trap. People, the Editors Guild of India, have entered or stepped into the trap, or they were trapped with a kind of a deliberate intention. I'm not asking. I'm not
Yeah,
questioning the
yeah,
intent. What I'm saying
yeah,
is they allowed themselves to fall into that trap, and whereby
yeah,
criticisms of all sorts will come. But I
yeah,
understand if the government of Manipur had objected to them, they might be having a different set of ideas, not like the way what I'm
yes.
trying to articulate. What I'm trying to articulate is purely based on the how we should be discriminately, what do you call, be fair on actually quoting certain facts and figures correct, making certain facts and figures correct, and also attribution. Even if my facts are wrong, I would say that it's stated by Dhiren. So or stated by Zaffar Iqbal. So if you do that kind of attribution, things would have been little better. But then there were no attributions of anything. It's just observations are fine.
I think
That is why
that
I
is
think.
very basic. That is very basic to journalism, that you
Mm,
attribute things. But you would also appreciate that not just in a ground
mm,
report, but in our shows and in our other coverage, we try to present different perspectives of the Manipur situation. We know it's a complex situation. We at Mojo Story have tried our best, but we'll keep a close watch on this story. For now, we'll have to leave it here. Thanks so much, Dhiren, for joining us. Uh, uh, Editor-in-Chief of the Frontier Manipur, joining us on Mojo Story and giving his perspective. That's all we have on the show today. Thanks so much for watching.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.